whole nother lifetime.
Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Westborough Advisory Finance Committee meeting number 2 of fiscal 2024 on August 31st, 2023. Meeting here in Town Hall. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted in person and via remote means in accordance with applicable law. That means that members of the public body as well as members of the public may access this meeting in person or via virtual means. In-person attendance will be at the location here, and it is possible that all members of the public body may attend remotely with in-person attendance consisting of members of the public. This meeting may be accessed via the link in the posted agenda. When required by law or allowed by the chair, persons wishing to provide public comment or otherwise participate in the meeting may do so by in-person attendance or by accessing the meeting remotely as noted. Additionally, the meeting will be broadcast live in real time via Verizon Channel 28, Charter Channel 192, or via Westborough TV's online platforms at westboroughTV.org and youtube.com/WestboroughTV. This meeting is being recorded and will be streamed live by Westborough TV, and we thank them for their support. First part of the meeting is public comment. Seeing nobody here for that, we will move on to our fall town meeting warrant discussion. Tonight, we're very lucky to have two guests from the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust, Ed Bain, the chair, and Alan Edinburgh, also a trustee. And why don't you guys jump in? We will be discussing what is currently called Articles 16 and 17, which is a bylaw and charter change.
Thank you, and good evening. I'm Ed Bain, 5 Thomas Rice Drive, and I'm the chair of the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust.
Alan Edinburgh, 8 Nash Street, member of the Select Board and the Select Board's representative to the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust.
Okay. Alan did most of the heavy lifting on the both on the warrant, along with Christie, as well as writing up the specifics and creating the presentation. So I'm just going to introduce it. We do have these two articles, 16 and 17, which really gives us a little bit more work to do, since we don't have enough, it seems, at this point, But I'm going to turn it over to Alan, and he can talk about the two articles that we'll present on town meeting floor.
Okay, so for those not familiar, the housing, these two articles relate to an effort to revitalize the town's Housing Partnership Committee. For those not familiar, I'll get into it a little bit deeper. The Housing Partnership Committee is part of the town charter, and its intent is to help developers with the permitting process and the process of producing affordable housing as part of their residential or mixed-use developments. The reason we're looking to revitalize the committee is first of all to staff it. Over the past several years, there have been resignations. We've had trouble recruiting people. Some of the work of the committee is highly technical in nature, and some of the work actually requires taking courses and getting certified by the state. So it's been difficult to recruit, to the point that the committee, for at least the last 12 to 18 months, has not had a quorum and has been unable to meet and do any work whatsoever. We also want to integrate the Housing Partnership Committee with current town processes. At the time it was created, its mission was set in a way that, as the town's evolved and improved its processes and the way the departments work, some of the work of the committee is now built into the process that the town normally works with developers. I'll talk about that. And we also want to avoid duplication of services and functions across multiple committees, where there might be a question about jurisdiction and who's making the decision. So there are two articles that need to be combined to make this, to help us reach these objectives. Article 16 will allow the trust to appoint and or serve as the Housing Partnership Committee for the town. This requires, so Article 16 would update the bylaws that define the trust, and also our declaration of trust on file with the Registrar of Deeds. Article 17 allows the Select Board at its discretion to delegate and revoke appointing authority for the Housing Partnership Committee to the trust. And so it's a tandem thing. Article 16 says the trust can do this work, if the select board chooses to let us or wants us to take on the responsibility. And Article 17 gives the select board the ability to make that decision. So the housing, a little bit about Housing Partnership Committee. Its current mission is to encourage continued availability of well-designed, well-built, affordable homes so that people of all economic levels can find a home in Westborough. That parallels nicely with the mission of the trust. Its primary responsibilities are to help developers use the local initiative program to provide affordable housing units and to assist developers through the town's permitting process. And I'll talk a little bit about these in more detail. The LIP program is how developers can get subsidies, tax credits, and other forms of funding for the development of affordable housing as part of residential units. Some of the programs are available if they're working within our zoning requirements, which have become much more rigorous about requiring affordable housing. There are additional programs that become available through this program if they elect to exceed the minimum thresholds and do additional work. So currently the status is the HPC is appointed by the select board, but departures over the past year and a half, there's no quorum to meet or act. And there's some responsibilities that it has that I mentioned, duplication and how it fits with town processes. So the pre-permit guidance, I have a typo there. At the time this committee was created, we did not have the business one-stop. And so there was a lot more need to guide developers through all the different departments and permits and processes. With the business one-stop, a developer can come in with nothing more than a concept and get guidance and help through the process. The role of the Housing Partnership Committee would be to attend those business one-stop meetings when residential development comes in, if there's a desire or they want to have an affordable housing component with it. Affordable housing lotteries are Housing Partnership Committee had been certified to conduct those affordable housing lotteries directly. None of the individuals who are certified to do that work are currently involved in the committee. So the committee's unable to perform that role. That is an authority and a power under Mass General Law, and it's part of our Declaration of Trust, that the Housing Trust can also do once we get certified parties. And there's a multi-day course and a test, and there's probably a fee you have to pay to get certified. And then there's really being a resource for state programs to help developers be aware of the variety of programs that are available to help subsidize the affordable portion of their development, and that's currently uncovered. And this idea came to light because a developer who brought a concept into the Business One Stop asked if there was guidance for assistance with the affordable component of their development. And we were called into a meeting. It's like, hey, there's a meeting tomorrow afternoon. Please come, please help. A bit of a scramble there. We'd like to formalize that, make sure that information, that support's available. So Article 16 amends the Housing Trust's bylaw in our town bylaws, and it will also amend the Declaration of Trust. We'd file an amendment with the Registrar of Deeds. And it's to see if the town will vote to amend Article 17 of the Westborough General Bylaws by adding the following Section 5, Powers of the Trustees, Section A. It'll be adding item 21, as authorized by the Select Board to serve as the appointing authority for the Housing Partnership Committee for the town, where the trust may appoint the Housing Partnership Committee either, 1, as a committee of the whole of the trust, or 2, as a subcommittee comprised of trustees and or residents with at least 1 trustee as a member. We worded it this way because if the Select Board decided to delegate this authority, the Affordable Housing Trust could vote to act as a committee of a whole, and we'd instantly have a Housing Partnership Committee up and running. And then when we recruit and get residents trained, we can turn it into a subcommittee. So this empowers the trust to appoint and or serve as the HPC if and only if the Select Board votes to delegate the responsibility. The Select Board can revoke the delegation of authority at any point in time. And this type of role for housing trusts is allowed within the Declaration of Trust under Mass General Law. So Article 17 is the other half of this. Was there a question?
No.
Okay. Is an amendment to the town charter. Currently in the town charter, the Select Board shall appoint the Housing Partnership Committee. We're looking to add a paragraph to see if the town will vote to amend the Westborough Town Charter, Article 3, Section 3.2, Select Board Composition, Term of Office, Compensation, Powers, and Duties, etc. Paragraph D, Appointments, to add the following paragraph. The Select Board may delegate appointing authority for the Housing Partnership Committee to any municipal housing trust established by the town, provided that the declaration of trust includes the authority to serve as the appointing authority for the Housing Partnership Committee. It's worded this way because today it's the Westborough Affordable Housing Trust. 30 years from now, it may be a different entity. And we wanted to, not have to go back and re-edit the charter to change the names, things of that nature. So typically municipalities only have one affordable housing trust. One's enough.
Yeah.
But if this trust was reconstituted in some way, it wouldn't require a subsequent charter change. And again, this is not saying they will delegate. It's something that's under discussion, is of interest, but it gives the select board the right to make the delegation and revoke it at any point in time. So what are the benefits? We have to change the slide because it's too hard to read.
Contrast.
This is the dry run.
Neat black ink or something.
So it allows the trust to function as the Housing Partnership Committee until residents can be recruited and trained. It helps ensure the town has an operational and effective Housing Partnership Committee, and it avoids duplication of efforts and responsibilities. So, any questions, comments, concerns?
Can you go back to the last slide on Article 16? I think it was
Yeah.
that one. Yeah. Okay. It was the last bullet point.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Would it be,
So I don't really know the difference between the two committees.
Okay, so the Housing Partnership Committee, by state law and guidance, is intended to be a resource for private developers who are building residential units for the inclusion of affordable housing. And it's really designed to help them get through the process, which can be extremely complicated, of getting subsidies, funding, tax credits, design approval, things of that nature. So things housing partnership committees have done in the past, aside from facilitating meetings with different permitting departments of the town, they might, if a zoning variance is needed, they might appear on behalf of the developer before the Zoning Board of Appeals with a statement of support for what's being done. And then housing partnership committees also have the ability to run the lotteries. So when housing is built, when private affordable housing is built, one of the components is there has to be an affirmative marketing plan to identify and attract low and moderate income families to apply. Typically more than one family will apply for each unit, so there's a lottery system.
And that also goes for
there's-
anything that the trust might build. They go through the same lottery process. So it's really getting somebody validated, at least one person, be it on the housing committee, on the Affordable Housing Trust, because we're sort of merging them a bit.
And it's not uncommon for private developers to hire consultants
Right.
who are certified, or nonprofits who do this work. But it is something that, with certified people, the Housing Partnership Committee is authorized to do.
So I guess I should maybe rephrase my question.
The trust.
Well, and why not just combine them, right? So here is allowing one to serve as both, but is there a reason to keep them as distinct entities? And I guess that really was more my.
Okay.
There
let me step back.
Okay.
The trust is effectively a real estate investment trust
Okay.
that happens to be a municipal entity and an agent of the town.
Okay.
And so, for the most part, anything a real estate investment trust can do, the housing trust can do, so long as it is involved in pretty narrow rules as far as what defined as creating or preserving affordable housing.
Okay.
To the point that the trust couldn't make investments and use the profit of those investments to fund, et cetera, et cetera. We can issue bonds, we can mortgage, we can be a lender, a number of programs. Many trusts now, I'm aware of about a half dozen, do serve as the Housing Partnership Committee to avoid, overlap and duplicate. The Housing Trust, we have a seat on the Community Preservation Committee, And so that would fill, oftentimes communities that don't have a housing trust, the Housing Partnership Committee will have a seat if they don't have a local housing authority. And so a lot of communities combine it on an ongoing basis. There's an efficiency to doing that. It creates a concentration of expertise, avoids the duplicate, any confusion about who's responsible for what, given that by law there are responsibilities that can overlap. We're not writing it that way deliberately because we understand that things look a certain way to the town today as far as who's staffing the committees and the trust and the state of it. And we don't feel the need to lock in the town to any one structure, as the situations may change. Situations may change and the laws may change in the future. And so.
Did that answer your question?
It did. Thank you.
Beth?
Are these committees filled by volunteers, paid town employees? Like, I'm kind of wondering how we're getting, because you're talking about training for these people, so there's got to be some money for training.
Yeah, it's all volunteer, okay? Alan is a representative from the select board by, per the trust's, declaration of trust. We must have one member from the select board sitting on that. And we work very closely with the select board on, a number of issues. But it is all volunteer. There's no paid staff. We don't even, we don't have like a, recording, secretary. Alan is the secretary of the trust as well, but we do all of that ourselves. We do use legal counsel as necessary when we're doing closings and things like that, and that is paid out of trust funds with that. Any training necessary, like fees, things like that, the trust would pay for, for whoever on either the trust or the housing partnership would get reimbursed, for those expenses.
How does the trust or the housing partnership get reimbursed if they pay for somebody's training?
No, we would, so historically, I'd have to go back to the last time someone on the housing partnership went through the certification process to see if they paid, A, if at that time it cost money, and B, if it did, if they were reimbursed by the town in any way. The cost of certification for someone to do the lotteries is something that the trust would reimburse them for. We have funds for administration and overhead.
Okay.
That includes training. What's interesting is, as elected and appointed officials, we go through, there's ethics and conflict of interest training that we have to go through with the Attorney General. In affordable housing, to be a lottery agent, you need certification. Also interesting to note that the commissioners for the Westborough Housing Authority also have a course they need to take and pass in order to continue to serve. And they have 90 days from appointment or election to complete that. And that, the Housing Authority covers if there are any related costs, I'm not sure. The Housing Authority covers that.
But when you say the housing authority covers it, is it coming from the town? I mean, because we
Well-
essentially funded some of this.
We
We
get our funding. Basically, there's been two sources, or will be up to two sources. The majority of the funding we've gotten up to date, when we first started the trust, has come from the mitigation monies that
From the
we
Pulte.
received from Del Webb for the Chauncey Lake development, because there was an understanding, since they in order to market their project as a 55 plus, as opposed to, solely, they couldn't have any units that were affordable. If you did have units that were affordable, they had to allow families per DHCD, which has changed its acronym,
It's now the EOHLC,
the EOHLC.
Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities.
Livable communities. So that has come into the trust. There is also another article on the warrant that you'll see that the select board will be supporting, which is a transfer of mitigation funds from the Highlands, which is, there's no affordable units within the Highlands project, and right across from the post office. So there's a $950,000 transfer of funds there. We will also get, at the minimum, 10% of the CPA funds will automatically come into the trust once that gets rolling.
That's why you guys have a seat on that board.
We do, and I'm the one that has the seat on there, and that represents the trust on that particular board. And there may be more money. Obviously, CPA covers a variety of needs in town. So we'll see how that goes. We haven't really met yet because we haven't gotten any funds to even talk about. With that, one thing I do want to mention, since you're bringing up money issues, is all our transactions and all financial transactions go through the finance director here. So, bills come in order for them to be paid. I have to sign off on them. We provide POs, invoices, et cetera, to the finance committee for payment. And they also support us in other ways where, in a real estate transaction, there are certain documents that may need to come from the town, clarifying that, a property doesn't have any liens against it, things like that.
So once you have these funds and get these two articles in place, then are you able to conduct real estate transactions without having to go through town meeting because you're already sort of more of a formal entity?
So these articles don't relate to the operation of, that aspect of the operation of the trust. That's already in place.
Okay.
The purpose of these articles is to give the select board the ability to ask the trust to serve as the housing partnership committee initially, and then
To pull it back.
recruit volunteers, get the committee up and running, get people trained, so that it can function as an ongoing committee, and to reestablish that as a resource for developers, private developers looking to build affordable housing as part of their developments.
Josh, any questions? Tom?
Nope.
Okay, I had a few. So are there statutory duties of an HPC? Do they exist in all towns? Is there something, like why it exists because we just decided to create one, or is that something all towns have and that's why we're filling it?
So there's a mention in Mass General Law that towns should have a housing partnership committee. We have one as part of the charter,
Okay.
Part of a town charter.
part of the town charter.
Oh, okay.
So
And right now, your thoughts of what your intention would be to do if this all passed, are you more likely to try and make it a subcommittee? Are you more likely to try and appoint an HPC because you'd have a quorum now? Or just your thoughts on
I think
today's direction, because
Right.
obviously
Right.
you'll have flexibility in the future.
Yeah, go ahead.
short term, we'd look to establish the HPC. There's a committee of the whole for the trust, or is a subcommittee of the trust, and the trustees could staff it until we can recruit. The goal is to get more residents involved and more interested parties involved in the process of affordable housing.
So how many people serve on the HPC if it was full?
We have 7.
Well, we have 7 on the trust. The
Oh,
HPC has 5 seats listed.
Okay, but you only have 2 people right
Right
now?
now, there's, I don't think
It's gotta be
there's-
less than
I think
3.
there's
They
one.
have 6 listed on the website,
Yeah.
6 spaces listed on the website with 2 vacancies, so there currently are
Yeah.
4 members listed?
No, because some of those have resigned.
Well, and that's why I
Yeah,
don't.
It's not updated.
It's out of date.
That's
Okay,
one of the
so
other
that-
problems.
There's no update.
So it might be an opportunity for those 1 or 2 people who are still interested in participating
invite
if you
them back
set it
in.
up that
Yeah.
way. And have the 1 or 2 people who are still interested voiced, I know they can't meet together to talk about it, but have they as individuals voiced
So-
any support or lack of support for this kind of thing?
So one of the people who's interested is a member of the trust
Oh, okay.
and was actually asked to join that committee to create coordination between the two. That happened with the creation of the trust. The
That was done in fall town meeting 2020.
2020. The HPC has not met since then. There hasn't
Yeah.
been a meeting.
And they
so-
haven't met since?
Yeah.
Okay. That all makes good sense to me. Are there,
Have you been,
I'm sorry, one other question is if it's possible for our minutes to email
Sure, I will email you the slide deck.
the slide deck, 'cause that'd be perfect. Beth?
yeah, I mean, I know that I see the select board sending out, information, all these board and committee chair positions are open. Is this part of that listing of things open at the present time?
It has been.
Okay.
I believe it currently is. I'd have to double check.
So what's going to make it attractive to get people to join who are well-intentioned as far as this committee goes, to make it functional?
Yeah, I think it's the same as any committee, that you serve on, such as, the AFC. It's, finding people who have, first of all, an interest in affordable housing and, have a desire to serve the town. It's like any committee, and plus, outstanding colleagues that they would work with would hopefully help. And hopefully people are seeing, as we know, one of the major issues facing this town is affordable housing. And that's come through on both the master plan as well as the recent senior needs assessment, report, recommendations, et cetera. A lot of seniors, they're concerned about that. So I think, making the need, promoting the need and why this is important, we can do that. I mean, just when we did with the trust, and the trust did pass unanimously at that fall town meeting, so it shows that the town does value.
And the other component is
Yeah.
the longtime chair of that committee was, he still is, he's retired from the committee, but he still is an attorney that specializes in affordable housing. So when people joined the committee, there was a knowledgeable resource to bring them on board and educate and guide. With his retirement almost 2 years ago, that went away.
Okay.
And so we're hoping that the fact that right now the trust is rapidly building, I mean, we know a lot, there's a lot more to learn.
Yeah.
But that there is a group of highly motivated, active, engaged people on the affordable housing issue who are building that expertise and can welcome someone in and guide them and have them participate in a, off the bat in a meaningful way, will help attract people who are interested in it.
Okay.
There are also people who've spoken to Ed or myself about interest in becoming a trustee,
Okay.
but their time commitment, their interest is slightly different and would possibly fit better with the role of the Housing Partnership Committee.
Because the housing partnership, once again, has a more specific
Narrow
focus,
role.
which is to guide developers through the process and facilitate that process of developing affordable housing, as well as helping them with what resources might be available, particularly financial resources that would make it attractive for them to develop in Westborough, such as, state funding, low-interest loans, things like that.
So, I mean, from my perspective too, I think there's a certain amount of momentum that the HPC obviously has lost their momentum. It's hard to get people to probably sign up when there's only a couple people and you're not having meetings. And from an observer, the Affordable Housing Trust has been accomplishing lots of things. There's a lot of stuff going on. There's a lot of excitement. And we'll start seeing the results of that, now, because you've only been doing this a year or so. And I think that will attract people's interest again, because
And in my mind, if the trust can get the committee up and running, get people involved, skilled up, and it's going strong, and
just let it
the select
go.
board says, great, we're gonna take it back, thanks for getting it up and running, and we'll run with it from here, that's fine,
Yeah.
right? The goal is to have have an effective housing
Function.
partnership committee for the town.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
to, develop affordable housing, however, that gets done, whether it's the trust doing it, whether it's a private developer doing
we
it.
have
In
a
this
pretty-
case, when we were called in to provide a little bit of guidance, it was an individual developer that was asking for, some
'Cause-
guidance, and we
Because
were
it
working
seems
together.
like we have a pretty good chunk of money out there through the various mitigation funds and
Yeah.
whatnot. So, like, of the various committees, it seems like that should be more attractive, like you can actually make a difference and see it. Maybe 10 years, but.
But we're hoping faster than that.
Yeah. No, we are blessed, unlike many other trusts, that, because I've talked to Hopkinton, they called me about some guidance, because they've just started up recently, and I indicated how we've had a few situations where we are, got some significant infusion, and will continue to get, hopefully.
Right, but we didn't get the housing.
And that gives us some, flexibility. But it also sort of puts us, we work a lot. Alan, when we were talking about it first, he says, I think we'll meet once a quarter. We've been meeting, we have meetings, I think, twice a month. I mean, we have just, a short meeting this coming Monday to
It was
do some
once a
authorization.
quarter unless we're involved in an active project. We just have 3 active projects.
Projects
going
at
on.
a time.
So,
Okay, well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yep.
Any other comments, questions? You guys all set with knowledge on this now?
Thank
Okay,
you.
well then we'll thank you very much for spending your time with us. That was very educational. We can decide if we want to vote tonight or wait till we have a few more people here. But we're going to do things a little differently this time. Instead of waiting till the very end to vote on all the articles, because we're going to try and do some of that as we go. So we've had
can write
feedback
them
on
down.
trying to have more the whys we vote for certain things recorded. So I'd like to get going.
and if
on
there are
that.
any further questions, please
I
let us
think
know.
we're all
If you
set.
were, I actually have one, which
Okay.
I'm gonna steal this for the R&R if we need it. If you had a one-sentence blurb that, why somebody should vote for this, can you think of what your one-sentence sales pitch blurb would be?
You go with one, I'll try to go with one.
I'd say voting for these 2 articles and allowing this change will allow the town to revitalize the Housing Partnership Committee and make it easier and more attractive for developers to include and expand the amount of affordable housing in their development plans.
I would specifically, echo that last part, which was to facilitate, the development of as much affordable housing as we can, particularly using private developers, expertise, et cetera,
Okay.
and having this committee, assist them so that they're successful in doing such.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, both
It's
guys.
our
Thank you.
pleasure.
Appreciate you coming by and kicking us off on our
Our pleasure.
And I'll get you, Walter, I'll get you the copy of the deck.
excellent. That'll be very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, and for town meeting, please change that lovely green.
Yeah.
Black text on the green. Yeah. Okay. All right. Next thing I want to share, because we're going to continue talking a little bit about our meeting. Share. Oh, let me share this thing. No. It's not the right kind of share. I got to get back to Zoom. Sorry. Here it is. Okay. Excellent. Okay, so on the screen, I've shared a spreadsheet that I've started where I've taken our 17 articles and sort of took a shot at who's going to come in and speak to them all. And so far, just going through it, we do on our next meeting, which is next Thursday, because Monday's a holiday, we will have the rec director and the conservation director, Jennifer Miller and Jennifer Kirkland, here to talk about what are currently called Articles 4, the rec department credit card expense fee that they want to do, and the Lake Chauncey analysis. And Karen Henderson from Westborough TV will be coming on the 11th of September. And I am working on scheduling the rest of everybody else. I can tell you that currently, I saw at the select board meeting, at least as of Tuesday night, there are no prior year bills. It's been put in as a placeholder. So there may or may not be Article 1 that we have to pay. So there are none currently of those. I've reached out to Christy, so we'll pick a time where she comes and covers these. Melanie, I believe, is going to try and get us the fire and police. If not, we'll pick a time that they can come. And I spoke to Maureen, and she's on vacation this week, but we'll set up a date where she can come in and tell us about that.
Do you want Jane and I to contact Amber, or, because you had mentioned you would do it, but.
I would just wait, because school started yesterday or today.
Absolutely.
And
Well, and
so
as of Tuesday, they
there's-
hadn't opened the
yeah.
bids, so they're not really gonna have any
and
information.
Yeah, so the bid, that's gonna be one where we're gonna do it in October.
Okay.
Probably,
Yeah.
well, let me bring out the other. Let me bring out the
That
other.
said, it might be worth looking at our schedule and backing
Yeah.
into when's the latest we can have them here and still
Yeah.
get our vote into the R&R, because that is when people are going to want to know what we voted, they're going to want feedback.
And I'd like to see it.
So if we can, ahead of time, plan that
And-
last
and-
night to have Amber
Right, if
and
we-
Anita
well,
here.
Also, if we can tell, even if it's not the last night, if we can tell Amber, we'd like to see you by this date,
Yes,
Right.
so that we get into the R&R.
so we
Yep.
can do that. Probably do that
Because, I
almost
mean, we're
now.
giving her more than a month, which isn't to say
Okay.
that this isn't a crazy time in education.
So what that comes down to is if they can come, I would give them the choice of these 3 dates.
Okay.
Yeah, so if we think if the
If-
warrant closes the 26th, I think that's reasonable, right? Those are the last 3 meetings.
Well,
Yeah.
the
So,
only question
and
is,
I'm,
what if things show up on the warrant at the last minute? We'll also need time for that, but.
yes, although
Well,
they
but so
don't have to
that's-
go in the R&R
Right.
this time. So, the 9th, we don't have a meeting, but that week is when the R&R has to get printed. So that's why I wrote
Okay.
down, this is the last night that we would input
Perfect.
on the R&R.
Okay.
We have another meeting that we could consider, another article, and then we still have these 3 weeks, so.
Well, and really, my thought is this is going to be one where people are going to have questions. We're going to want to look at it. If we set it one of those 3 sides that now, as
Yeah.
things start showing up, we still have the other
Yeah.
2 nights,
Yeah.
and we're
So-
not cramming
So-
I
everything.
guess the only
in.
thing I
The
would
only
say
thing
is
is
we could
sometimes-
wait till next week before you ask them, do they want to
Absolutely.
come on the 28th, the 2nd, or the 5th,
The only
as
thing-
opposed to bothering them
The
this
only
week.
question I have is sometimes we've asked to talk to them twice.
Yeah, so-
Because we talk to them, we think about, I mean, this
Valid.
is one of the ones that's much more complicated. And we talk to them and we
It's the only
think
big
about
thing
it.
on the-
Right, and
large
so
thing.
I want to think that we might want to allow them, not necessarily
Yep.
need it, but we might want to allow them 2 visits,
Well, that's fine, but if
Yeah.
you have the,
28th and the
I would
5th.
always think if they're ready by the 28th, I'd rather have them sooner for that exact
Exactly.
reason, plus it gives us more time to hash
to
it around and vote.
Yeah,
Um,
because sometimes it's really funny little questions
Right.
that'll trigger the like, ooh, should we make this adjustment?
Okay, so anyway, that's all good points. So if you guys are comfortable doing that, that would be great. Just let me know. I wasn't gonna bother them this week, so I figured, and that's fine. So here are the laid out right now. I want to point out that I've been notified that it is highly likely, I don't know if this is confirmed yet, but on Thursday, September 21st, we'll be doing the annual kickoff to the fiscal 25 budget, believe it or not, which is a tri-board meeting, which will include the school committee, the select board, and ourselves. And here, I believe. Well, it says town hall here, but I don't know. It actually, it's probably be across the
It's gonna be,
street.
It's gotta be
it's pretty
across the
big.
street. with
Yeah,
that
no,
many
that'll,
people.
that'll
Yeah.
be at the other hall.
Yeah.
I think that's just because
All
I had
day.
town
All
hall
day.
written for everything.
What?
No, it's not the
They-
budget summit.
No, the budget summit's an all-day thing, that's in
It's in
January.
January.
This
Okay.
is
It's
really
just a meeting to
just
kick
setting the expectations. What do they see coming? Some of the departments present. It's
Okay.
really a kickoff to her process because they have to create the budget legally by December 25th or so. And so they'll be doing all that. The thing in January is presenting what
They figured out?
what they figured out.
Okay,
And so this is, I think,
It's
just.
likely to be a 6 o'clock start. Perfect.
okay,
6 or
Yeah,
6:30.
this was a 6 o'clock.
Was it
start.
6
Okay.
o'clock? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay, right.
So just wanted to let you know that,
If it can be hybrid, hi, I'm in California.
I don't know whether they do what you call hybrid, but remote people could possibly at least participate. I don't know.
Okay.
Because hybrid means nobody has to be.
Oh, okay,
It's an
no,
extreme
just-
case of
right.
being remote.
Okay, no,
You
I
know,
don't, I
and
don't
the
want.
quorum doesn't have to be in a room. For a regular meeting, you're allowed to have people remote.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm sure it'll be on Westborough
TV.
TV, whether there'll be remote participation. That's a
Okay.
good question,
Right.
but we'll see.
Okay.
We haven't gotten that far.
Fair enough.
So other dates, yes, as you pointed out, the 26th at the select board meeting, they're planning on closing the warrant. There is a Westborough Connects meeting that I'll send out some information on called Bridging the Differences, and they're doing a program with a consultant, which in my mind sort of encourages civil discourse. And it sounds, and they specifically invited Jean and I, but did say others can come, and so I'll send it out. If the warrant stays at the size it is now, and we aren't getting huge amounts, we'll talk about it next week and see where we're at. I watched the select board meeting Tuesday. There were no additional items known at this time. There was thought that there would potentially from the building committee, the exploratory committee, or whatever it's called for the country club, that they may be coming with a article for design funding, that would be another sort of big thing. But now it sounds like they're coming to something that isn't with town meeting, which is just the formation of a building committee, and then work from there. So we may be in reasonable shape. We'll fill in, some of the other things are, I think, smaller. We've discussed the fire department already, not the radio part, but the other, just recently. And, so I think we can probably do with it with what we have right now. Okay. And yes, and the other possible date of canceling too, at 9/25, I believe, is Yom Kippur. Schools are closed, and possibly
Yeah.
some of our members would be celebrating that, so that might be one.
And the community.
And the community. So that might be one we cut out as well, which is why we have to see where we are for this, because the tri-board meeting's also taking a meeting away. And we lose another meeting in October. Any questions, comments, thoughts on any of that? Not, stop sharing that.
I need, no,
I gotta go back to the agenda.
I think it's the 15th, the 17th.
Okay, and AFC agenda. Okay, so we've talked about all town meeting stuff I think we need to at the moment. Are there any liaison reports? Okay,
School opened.
Yeah, school open. I did attend the library building committee meeting on Tuesday. Things are going along quite well. in terms of the finding out information on costs of repairs. Since in earnest since July, they've done several interesting things. The architect came in and they spent a couple of days actually with a system that films the entire building when the people aren't in it, including dimensionally. So you can now they can go into any room and measure things and see where everything is from the architect's office without having to constantly go back and go, how close was that door to this or something like that.
Wow.
And they showed us a demonstration of that was pretty neat. They have had their subcontractors come in and have been gathering information on the windows, the roof, the this, the that, the other thing. To that end, the architect, the library on the 8th, which I want to say is Friday night, from 6 to 8 p.m. is hosting an open house. I think it's 6 to 8, don't quote me.
5 to 7?
But somewhere in the middle there, the architect there's gonna be a presentation on, a little bit on the repairs and, look for input. The architect team will be there. There'll be another night where they take input from people, I think in September. And so I think we're really on track for, annual town meeting, having a high-level design set of selections for the repairs, and at that point to look for funding for the full design and quoting, and it would be the year later where you actually get the construction costs. But it is moving along and making progress, which was good to see. And there's a subcommittee of the Library Building Committee that meets and looking at all the things that are found and sort of prioritizing them into mainly 3 different buckets of
Must-do.
essential, very good to do, and maybe call it nice to do. And so it really depends how much things cost, of which things would end up getting included in the final recommended repair. So that's that. And one other thing, the library will be here for a reserve fund transfer under 9,000. I think it was 8,600 if I'm doing it. One of the blowers in the HVAC system died last December. They tried to go without it, so they got through this summer. This summer wasn't that hot, but we're still a good solid, probably 1.5 to 2 years before those things would be replaced. And the concern of going through the winter or going through the humidity with the books they have and things like that on that blower means that the trustees now believe that it makes sense to replace that particular blower. And so that's sort of an unexpected expense. There's not enough expense in their repair budget. Their repair budget mostly is routine maintenance and a few small things. So I expect that Maureen will come in and we'll do both the article and that request on the same night.
Did that go through the capital committee?
Capital committee? It's not really capital.
It's not capital? Okay.
It's a repair too.
Okay. I thought you were replacing it. Okay.
No, if they were to replace the whole unit, that would have to go through capital because that would be probably 30,000 or 50,000 or something. But
Okay.
it wouldn't make a lot of sense because they're probably replacing a lot of these units, I would guess, as part of the repair proposal that will come up.
Okay.
But like I said, if it's probably 2 years from now where that construction sort of happening, so, or 1.5 years anyway. So that'll also be on one of our agendas coming up. Okay. No other?
Can we go back to the town meeting portion.
Sure.
I realized, we never talked about voting on the articles,
Right,
which
so,
was a placeholder in there for tonight.
yes,
I think it's
so
worth
we,
talking about, I think it's worth voting on the articles tonight,
We-
unless there's a reason to hold them,
The two that we just.
that we
took-
just talked about, yeah.
we could certainly vote tonight on those two. I mean, the question is, the three people who weren't here, so they wouldn't, other than watching,
They
they
can
don't have
always,
as much
we can
impression.
always revote.
And we could re-vote.
Yeah, I mean, if they have,
If-
I mean, so my take on it
Okay.
is, you know, at the next meeting, there'll be somebody who wasn't here at this meeting,
Yeah,
and so on and so forth.
Yeah,
And
no,
if
that makes sense to
someone
me.
who's not here tonight watches and has
A different opinion.
a
So
different
what-
opinion or wants to revote, we
what
can
we would
always do
have
that.
to do is make a motion, I would do it without the article number, but whatever the thing says here.
The name
Was
of it?
worth, I mean, do other
Is there a
people
sort of,
feel
can always
without
revote.
voting, is there a
You know,
consensus?
I could also see an argument to, you know, just assume it would always be voted at the next one, but
No,
we
my-
do have a tendency when it comes time to vote to, like,
Him and all.
start over again. And
Yeah, we do.
It's fresh in
like
our mind.
The first time, it's, you know,
I
it's
guess
fresh in
it
your
would
mind.
be, for me, if someone really said, you know, I gotta think about this, I can't make a decision now, then it would be
Or
worth
if it were a
waiting.
particularly large or
Right.
complicated.
I mean, so I
article.
think maybe it's just a rule of practice. We say, okay, do we feel prepared to vote on this one tonight?
Yes.
And we make a judgment call. They come in, they present, we say, okay, are we voting on this one? No, I gotta sleep on it. We'll
Okay.
vote it on Monday.
So
Not Monday,
as
'cause it's
a
a
rule of
holiday.
consensus, is there anybody who isn't ready to vote? Is there-
I could vote right
Okay.
now.
Yeah.
All right, so in that case, let's construe a motion from the warrant.
Since there's no money, I move the town recommend the I move the committee recommend the town vote to amend general bylaws, it's wrong one, sorry. Amend general article bylaws, Article 17, Affordable Housing Trust, as written in the warrant. And that would take care of Article 16.
McMahon, second?
Okay, that takes care of current Article 16, but maybe a different number by
Right.
the time.
Yep.
But we'll record it by what it is. Is there any further discussion? I just liked, that was a great idea to ask them for a summary, because I kind of was feeling the same way, that to me, this revitalizes this HPC that has fallen on hard times, but it allows a path in the future for it to become independent again if needed. And I have a super amount of respect for the job that Affordable Housing Trust Group is doing right now. They're really doing well, I think. and-
Right, I mean.
And so I think it's a
And they
fine
and
idea.
they have a fairly large kitty because of the mishaps of planning that happened in the past.
Yeah,
You know, or it's not even planning, given that, you know,
Yeah,
that
no,
age
it's not.
62, 55
Yeah, that was
debacle.
interesting. We talked about that extensively last spring, and that part never came up.
The 62, 55.
The fact that the reason there was no affordable housing over at Lake Chauncey was because it's an over 55 community.
instead of over 60
Two.
something, it would have had a.
It, well, no,
change
it was
to
like, it couldn't.
No, it would have had to have been open to everyone.
Oh, right.
Right, that it would have
yes.
become a
That when we
family.
discussed like,
Oh.
oh,
Yeah, yeah,
you know,
yeah.
the penalty should have been higher, they're getting out of their
Yeah.
responsibility for this thing, and you can't build the affordable housing,
Yeah,
and
your
they're like,
ch-
well, but we
Your
can
choice
buy
was
and
the
renovate
affordable
and-
housing or the.
But the reality is, they couldn't build affordable housing and still be over 55.
The two sets of rules cannot
Yeah.
coexist in
Yeah,
that
and
one.
that never came up when we discussed it in the spring.
Right, I mean, I
I thought
think
it was
some-
just, you know, something new to
some
learn
of us
tonight.
already knew about it, sorry, you know,
It's okay.
and so, you know, and it's like, it's such a done deal, you know, because we already missed the boat on that one when it was happening. I mean, that's how we got the mitigation funds.
Yeah, the mitigation funds were in the agreement. We talked about it extensively this spring, but no one talked about the fact that the reason that
Okay.
they were paying was because,
Oh, when people were complaining about how small the amount was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's because.
I had missed it
Don't let
also, but it
the
makes
facts get in
sense.
the way of a good story.
Right.
Something.
There are very strict restrictions on
Yeah,
affordable
no, it's-
housing, and you
Oh, it was
can't.
amazing watching it live. It was like, okay, you agreed to this amount, but now you can't do it because you got, like, you can't restrict the age and like the number of kids that could, like, the math on the number of kids that could move in once it opened to families.
It's almost another
was-
school.
It was certainly another classroom,
Well, more than that.
you know,
Way more.
but it was just
Okay.
like, oops,
All right.
you know, yeah.
All right, so back to the topic at hand. We have motion and second, no further discussion, all in favor? No one's opposed, so that's 6-0-0, 6 present, and that's good, okay. So how about a motion on our current Article 17, the amend the charter?
I move the committee recommend the town vote to amend the town charter, Article 3, Section 3.2, the Housing Partnership Committee, appointing authority as written in the warrant.
Second?
McMahon, second?
Okay, and I'll just point out that it was Beth Blumberg who made the motion, just for
Sorry.
our minute taker,
Is she
minute
here?
writer. She will be watching.
Okay,
She doesn't watch live usually.
okay,
Or she maybe, I doubt it. She does it when she has time, which is good.
okay.
Okay.
Your notes were wonderful, but she's doing a nice job.
She's doing awesome. And what's also is happening now is when we're filing them with the town and they're going on the record, all the background slides and everything
being
are
attached.
being captured and attached. So if you go back and read the minutes now, they got all the, everything I send out to the group that was background info is included. So it's far more
Awesome.
transparent, which is,
Mm.
it's a nice touch. We have helped support through the select board office to get them stored properly, not just posted. Okay, I guess this is really the same thing, so I suspect no further comments, discussions. Okay, let's vote on the amended charter. All in favor? That's 6. Anybody opposed? Nobody abstained, so it's 6-0-0 on the recommendation. Very good. Thanks for the reminder, Jean.
And 2 were done.
Speaking of approval of minutes, we have minutes from last week, meeting number 1 of August 24th.
So I caught one really insignificant typo.
Okay.
So in the summary of Article 3, it says this article that will need further explanation. I assume there's probably a word missing from there. Maybe this is an article, I'm not quite sure, but it just needs word rephrased slightly.
This article will need further explanation.
Can you tell me
Yeah.
what page we're on?
Sorry, it's the second page.
Yes.
Under Article 3, the last sentence, probably should just say.
This article that will need further
So
explanation.
it probably should be this article will need.
And just get rid of the word
Yeah.
that. Very good.
It's probably a direct quote.
Likely.
Yeah, where I typed it.
That's what-
Because
no, no,
I
you
did
typed it,
edit
you
the
said it.
minutes and I
You said it.
You said it and she just wrote down what you said,
that could
Walter.
be
You
true.
made the
I
grammar.
might have said
It should
that.
read, you know, it
Regardless.
should read this article that,
Okay.
sick.
Can I get a motion with, as amended, the word that removed?
Clap, I move to approve the minutes as amended.
A second?
Second.
Second?
Okay. We have motion. I think that was McMahon I heard first, anyway. Second? Okay. Any further discussion? None, all in favor? Okay, minutes approved as amended, 6-0-0. Thank you very much. Anybody have anything else that we need to do today? Let me just go back to the agenda, because I think that was
That
it.
was the last thing on our
That's the
agenda.
last thing on the agenda. Is there anything else? If not, we will meet again a week from today, and that's it. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
So moved. McMahon?
Second, Blumberg.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor? 6-0. Thank you.
Okay.
And good night. Thank you, Westborough TV.